Thank you all for joining me here on Two Sides with Afrida. This is a very special episode because with me today is a young parliamentarian, a very dynamic leader of this country. I'm going shortly, I hope he appears on screen any moment now, Gaurav Gogoi, who's a member of parliament from Assam. There you are. Gaurav, hi. Hi,
Hello.
how are you? Good afternoon, how are you doing?
Good afternoon, Afrida. Doing my best. Good to see you.
Okay, good to see you too. So let me just quickly welcome all the viewers who are joining us today, Gaurav. Like most of us know, Gaurav Gogoi is a member of parliament from Assam. He represents the Kolyabor constituency, one of the prominent faces of the Congress party, one of the strongest voices of the opposition in parliament. We've heard Gaurav recently, of course, questioning the government on its policies on COVID-19, but prior to that, very vociferously raising issues on the Delhi riots, CA, NRC. Before that, of course, the farmers' issues. So, Gaurav, you've been extremely active in terms of voicing your opinions, taking up the cudgels whenever it came to a matter of national importance. So we've seen that side of you, but today I want to, in fact, have a rather little friendly conversation, if possible. Draw
Sure.
out from you, of course, your views on the important issues that the country is facing today. So if I may begin by asking you, we'll also, of course, take questions. Viewers are joining us even as we speak. I want to ask you that, right now, of course, what everybody is talking about is the lockdown. And it's just been announced that it's going to be extended for 2 more weeks. Where do you stand on this debate that is going on between this balancing act, between lives and livelihoods, health and economy? This is an unprecedented health crisis. But at the same time, opinions are now coming also towards the fact that a country like ours, cannot have a lockdown extension in this manner because the price to pay is huge. So are you more in favor of opening out, or are you more in favor of continuing with this kind of a lockdown in order to save lives?
Well, first of all, I think differently on the lockdown in terms of that the lockdown, in terms of obeying the rules of the lockdown, have been largely successful because the Indian people have abided by the law. And why I say that is that if you look at a country like the US, where people are in the initial stages of lockdown and they're already protesting, they're out on the streets, they're protesting against the government. But here, despite the severe hardships faced by many people, especially at the bottom of the pyramid, they have gone days without food, water, but they have abided by the rules of lockdown, accepted social distancing. So if lockdown has been successful, I think it shows to the courage and the law-abiding nature of Indian citizens. Secondly, where I stand is that now you've seen the announcements yesterday. There are new set of restrictions which have been eased in the green zone and in the orange zone. So what has happened in the past, I don't want to go into that. But what's going to happen from now on? We've emerged into three classifications of India, where restrictions would have been eased up in the green zone and orange zone. But at the same time, we have not totally escaped the menace of COVID-19. So we have to still, have certain norms for social distancing. Whether there are markets or mandis or offices, even where offices where 33% of the people can go to work, they still have to create certain rules and norms for social distancing because COVID-19 can re-emerge. They can be a second phase anytime. So at this stage where we stand, I think it's very necessary for each and every sector of society, private sector, public sector, homes, schools, colleges, universities, to imagine what would that workplace or home place or marketplace would look like if social distancing norms are in place, are in force. I think that's a level of introspection that all companies, corporates, shopkeepers, traders, schools, universities have to do, because even if one zone does emerge into a green zone, we will still have to take a lot of precautions. So we're in a positive stage, but we are not out of the woods yet.
We are not out of the woods, and I appreciate what you said about the onus is a lot on the citizens as well, and if we have been successful, it's because of the citizens' cooperation. So new rules will have to be set. new dynamics will come into place. We cannot, even if we go back to our jobs, cannot operate like we did before. But you mentioned the green zones, and interestingly, you come from Assam, you represent Assam, and bulk of the northeast is in the green zone today. Uh, what do you think is the reason for that? Is it because they're less connected in trade and travel, and there's less intermingling with the mainland, or is it because of the efficiencies of the respective governments? What lessons should we draw from there, if at all, or you simply think it's because of the different dynamics of each region that the success story would be different, in this country?
I think, Afrida, only time will tell that why certain states in India have been so badly hit. Kerala, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh. We can understand that some of these states are very well connected with the global world because of their airports, whether it's the Mumbai airport or the Thiruvananthapuram airport. But at the same time, certain other states are not at the same level of severity. So, as you said, the Northeast states, Goa is another example. So, only time would tell, and more research would say. I'm very
Yes.
happy, grateful that the region of India that I come from has escaped the brunt of COVID-19 when it comes to health,
Yes.
because we cannot compare the health infrastructure of Delhi with that of what's there in Imphal or Shillong or in Guwahati. Had we seen the number of cases that we see in Maharashtra, had that been in the Northeast, the burden that would have come on hospitals, doctors, nurses in rural areas, in suburban areas would have been tremendous, and we would not have been able to cope. So we've escaped the health impact in the Northeast, but like the rest of India, we've not escaped the economic impact. And the economic
Yes.
burden of COVID-19 is no less serious. People have not had access to nutritious food. They've been, relying solely on government rations of food and dal. But any
Yes.
expert in nutrition would tell you just that rice and dal is not a nutritious enough diet without green leafy vegetables. We've had children not being able to access schools and colleges. So children are going through one of the most strangest times where they're not able to develop. There's no peer-to-peer interaction. There's no one to help them think through this. They are staying isolated in their homes. And we've seen in
Yes.
many cases that the frustration of the parents that they are not able to go out to work, their jobs are going, their incomes are going. That frustration is being vented out on the poor child, and the calls to childline, to child helpline numbers have just skyrocketed. So it is an extremely vulnerable time for the poor. But my heart goes out to children who don't have, not all, everybody has an access to iPad or internet. So they are living through strange times. But I believe in the resilience of the human nature. And I believe that, amongst the billions of humans that live on this earth, I think Indians are some of the most resilient citizens.
Okay. That's a positive note, and that's in fact nice to think of in a way that perhaps we have better resistance, perhaps we have better immunities. But coming, the region that you represent, and I was with you when you were campaigning for your 2019 elections as well. That's the India that not many are familiar with. In cities, we talk about how it's boring to be indoors, etc. And like you rightly pointed out, in the rural dynamics, things are quite different. And the worries are around how the rural economy is going to be impacted. Let's talk about the issue of the migrants, Gaurav. And I was just thinking that if now the government is facilitating return of migrants to their native places, and then at the same time talking about restarting industries, factories, how does that work? Wouldn't you have to then wait for these migrants to then come back to their original workplaces? It seems at one level that things are in a complete mess, even though there is a semblance of control. But are we going forward, or are we taking two steps backward? What is your view on this?
So let me, on the first thing, I understand the need for people to be back with their loved ones. In fact, the reason why we are able to cope with COVID-19 is because most of us are at home with our loved ones, and they give us strength and they give
Yes.
us courage. And even though we might not be working full time, or our incomes might be have taken a beating, but it's being close to loved ones that gives us strength to fight this
Yes.
crisis psychologically, mentally, and emotionally. So I understand completely the need of migrants to go back to their homes. But you're extremely right that we are seeming to be at crossroads. We are facilitating trains for lakhs of migrants or thousands of migrants to go back home. And at the same time, we are asking in green zones for construction activity to be open, for
Yes.
retail activity to be open. Now, most of the labor that is in construction and in retail is migrant labor. So, what are
Mhm.
we talking about? And here is where I feel the government could have been much more forthcoming and much more transparent about what are they planning. It seems that every time, we're waiting for a May 3rd, now we'll wait for a May 17th, we'll wait for another 2 weeks to know what the government is thinking for the next 2 weeks. So we're caught off guard. And therefore we as citizens, as private sector, public sector, academicians, opposition parties, other state governments, we are not able to contribute to government's thinking to say that, listen, you know, what about this? So I feel that government should have been much more communicative. Our leadership, instead of just having bureaucrats, junior level bureaucrats give us daily press conference.
Right. A lot of questions coming in. What is your usual day under the lockdown? What does it look like?
As I said, I don't want to speak too much about my personal life because I feel that I am quite grateful for the privileges that I have. And I'll just reiterate that a lot of it goes into parenting. And like many others, along with parenting, it's a combination of work, fitness, keeping the house clean, reading, staying connected with family and friends. It's a normal day like everyone else.
All right. Okay. Of course, appreciate all the views that you expressed with us today. And coming from Assam, extremely proud being an Assamese myself. Always been, following your speeches in Parliament, and that's extremely important that we have a strong opposition. And young leaders like yourself are our hope in that sense. So, thanks for sharing your views with us, Gaurav.
Thank
It
you.
was my pleasure, and I was honored, in fact, when you considered
No, no, my
this,
pleasure.
because it's so important for the young population to get access to their leaders. And for you to agree to do this means a lot to me. Thanks very much. Have a good day.
No, thanks for considering me. Thanks so much, Afida. Have a good day and look after yourself.
Thank you.